Hey, welcome to the First Take podcast on a Tuesday. Think you have what it takes to debate Stephen A. and Max on national television? Then watch First Take weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2, and you can win a chance to join us right here in studio. But right now, we ask, Stephen A. is in the epicenter of sports, Cleveland. So on that note, what will it take to knock off the Warriors? And if LeBron wins the chip this year, is he back in the conversation with Jordan as the GOAT? Was John Elway vindicated with the Broncos' win over Brock Osweiler and the Texans? And also Tim Tebow and Rays pitcher Chris Archer join us live. Let's get it started.
You know what time it is. You see the crowd behind me. That means I'm in Cleveland, the epicenter of the sports world, coming at you. Here I am, live in Cleveland, the ring ceremony for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Game 1 of the World Series for the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland is the place to be. Max and Molly are at ESPN headquarters. Your boy is in Cleveland. Stephen A. in the house, coming at you live. Holla at your boy.
Let's get it crackin'. Let's start the session. March lift the competition, balls by that action. You can never debate it. This is actual fact. Stephen A. and Max Kale say it's a rap. I'm like, say what? Say what? What's up with all my haters? I'm a ball when I perform. So my jersey's in the air. I'm allergic to my haters. Every morning I prepare. Lot of clothes I can wear just like them Oregon players. Yeah, quack, quack. What it do? Rap like it's nothing to it. Matter of fact, you can ask hard and I'm cooking too. Base dog cooking too. Nah, look at you. Great mind. They embrace mine like a crooked tooth. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, stop me. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, they got me.
How's a girl to follow up that Cleveland love I just saw, Max Kellerman? That is intense. Max and I holding it down in Bristol. How we doing?
How you doing, Molly?
And Stephen A. taking over the land, obviously.
What's up?
The hottest city
What's
right
up?
now. How we doing?
Give it up! Give it up! Yeah! Yes, sir!
We love it.
What's up?
Why is everyone so excited? Is there something big happening in
I
Cleveland?
don't know. What are we missing?
Basketball is back. What's going on? You see, Max, the difference between me and you? You see the difference between me and you? Cool. You in Bristol chilling out with Molly.
Yep.
I happen to be a man of the people.
Yes.
I am here.
No, I prefer my ivory tower.
I didn't want to throw that out. I didn't want to throw that out.
We know Stevie A loves the people. So Stephen A. with a few of his
I
closest
do.
friends right there in Cleveland. We're going to have a lot of fun today on this show. Coming up, the one and only Tim Tebow will join the show to talk about his transition from football to baseball. So please stay tuned for that. But the NBA season starts tonight, and that's where we begin. After falling just short last season, the Warriors added a major piece in former MVP Kevin Durant and are heavy favorites to win the title in 3 seasons. What will it take to knock off the Warriors, Stephen A.?
Well, I think, first of all, what it's going to take is another Herculean effort by LeBron James, which we can predict. Kyrie Irving balling the way that he did throughout the NBA Finals, averaging better than 25 a game. It's going to take that. There needs to be a sighting of Kevin Love. We know that he can play, okay? The kid, the guy was a walking double-double before he ever arrived in Cleveland, but averaging just 7 points in the finals, essentially getting benched at times in favor of Channing Frye and others. That's something that can't happen. To me, it's going to either take Kevin Love really elevating his level of play, or dare I say GM David Griffin pulling off a heist and getting somebody the quality of a Carmelo Anthony to join Kyrie and LeBron James, somebody of that magnitude. It doesn't necessarily have to be him, but you're going to have to get somebody like him, somebody the caliber of a Paul George, somebody before that trading deadline expires, because that big three, coupled with Draymond Green in Golden State, is going to be lethal. I think that Cleveland's got a shot. There is no doubt about it. But at the same time, Kevin Love can't do what he did in the finals, and Cleveland can expect to repeat. You need somebody to step up as a viable third option. If it happens, the Cleveland Cavaliers can beat the Golden State Warriors in June.
So close, Stephen A. As usual, you bring up a lot of valid points, and yet you fail to put them together properly. Yes, the answer is LeBron has to do his crazy thing where he does the Muhammad Ali thing where you don't think it's possible to pull off this upset because it would be an upset, and yet he figures it out somehow. And how did he figure it out last year? He tried against Toronto up 3-1. He figured he had a game to kill here. Let me see if I can get Kevin Love going. Let me feed him. Let me do everything I can to bring him along, because let's not forget, when they traded Wiggins, the number 1 pick in the draft, for Kevin Love, because LeBron James basically said, why don't you trade Wiggins for Kevin Love and I'll go play in Cleveland? When they did that, they thought they were acquiring, starting with LeBron, thought that the Cavs were getting a superstar. Not a guy who Channing Frye can approximate, as you said, or who Tristan Thompson looks better than at times, or the team operates more effectively with at times. No, a superstar. You mentioned Carmelo Anthony. When Kevin Love was in Minnesota, he was perceived that way by many. As a top 10, certainly, but even as a top 5 player by some. As a superstar, as a franchise player, he has been far from that. LeBron James has to figure out a way to get him back to that level, even if he was overrated at the time. Get him back to playing as good as he possibly can, because J.R. Smith, he's become a perimeter defender, the best on the team, actually, in the regular season. Needs to keep hitting those threes, needs to keep doing that. All the other little parts of the team need to keep doing what they've doing or improve to have a shot against this Warriors team in the finals. So we all know that's going to the finals is going to be. But Kevin Love is a star, or the Cavs are not going to repeat, period.
Well, I'll tell you this, and this is the part that you can't ignore about Kevin Love. Numbers-wise, he wasn't that impressive. But during the NBA Finals, as the finals waned, when everybody was getting on him, all of a sudden he was defending better, he was rebounding better, he was banging. And when you think about the Golden State Warriors, let's take one thing into account. Yes, they can score all over the place because they're elite perimeter shooters. The flip side is an Andrew Bogut is gone, a Harrison Barnes is gone. So those are two of your primary defenders that are gone. There's a 7'1" banger who's gone, and you've replaced him. What was it with Zsa Pachulia? First of all, there's something wrong with that picture. If there's something that should be wrong, my center shouldn't be named Zsa. When I think about Zsa, I think about Gabor. I don't think about Pachulia. Okay, so this is the deal. I'm looking at it from the standpoint that one can make the argument that Golden State potentially has gotten a bit softer defensively. If indeed that is the case, because we know that Kevin Durant can defend a little bit. We know that Klay Thompson can really, really defend. We saw that Steph Curry had a little bit of trouble defending Kyrie Irving. We did see that. Okay, so when we look at it from that perspective, let's be clear about something. Kevin Love has to play better. He has to up his game, but it's not like he has to be a star in order to produce. He just has to play with veracity. He has to make sure to punish dudes. You got to remember, him in combination with a guy like LeBron has to attack to the point where you're getting dudes in foul trouble and you're exploiting them on a defensive side of the floor. I'm talking about Golden State's defense. You've got to be able to do that. It can be done, but what can't happen is Kevin Love laying back and leaving totally the offense to Kyrie and LeBron. He's got to do more than that. There's no question.
I disagree that the Warriors have a defensive issue. No team is perfect. They don't have the same kind of big presence in the paint in terms of defense that they had. But when you look at who's even going to be in that starting 5 and talk about 2, Klay Thompson, you talk about the 3, Kevin Durant, the 4 or 5, depending if they play 5 out or not, and Draymond Green, those guys are all good defensively. Kevin Durant has the ability to play absolutely elite defense. He doesn't always do it, but he can do it. And in fact, we saw that often throughout that Warriors series in the Western Conference Finals. One of the reasons the Warriors had problems was because of Kevin Durant's length and defensive ability.
Hold on, you got to make up your mind, Max Kellerman. You can't sit there and waffle like blueberries or something. Here's the deal, okay? You have been on the record saying repeatedly that the potential kryptonite to Kevin Durant is LeBron James.
Yep.
Well, last time I checked, LeBron James plays for the Cavs. And that's the team that we're anticipating he will meet in the NBA Finals. What do you think? Steve Kerr and them are going to say, Kevin Durant. Well, you go ahead and stick Kyrie Irving. We're going to leave Clay or Steph on LeBron. It ain't going to work that way.
Yeah,
at some point in time, Kevin Durant's going to have to deal with this brother. He ain't going to be able to hide.
Yeah, and while Kevin Durant's dealing with him, you know who's going to be getting wide open shots? Klay Thompson or Steph Curry or Draymond Green or someone they bring off the bench. I mean, there are too many. They are too deep right now. And if you think of the reason, we'll talk about this later in the show, but if you think of the reason that Golden State lost, you really want to get into X's and O's. Harrison Barnes couldn't hit a thing. Now instead of Harrison Barnes, it's Kevin Durant taking those shots. It's trouble. It's problems.
Well, we know that Golden State's the favorite. The question is what can be done to derail them. And I'm telling you what it is. Kevin Love has to elevate his game, or David Griffin has to make a move before the trading deadline. Outside of that, Golden State is believed to be a team that can be exploited defensively. Not to mention the fact that, again, you've got a lot of basketballs. I think they'll figure it out. I think they'll be explosive offensively. They'll run roughshod over most of the league during the regular season. But when it comes to that 7-game series and you're trying to figure out what must be done, what has to be done, et cetera, what you have is a situation where you've got somebody in LeBron James who can attack the basket. You've got the Cleveland Cavaliers as the reigning defending champions with that chip off their shoulder. Let's not ignore the fact that pressure does break pipes. And we're talking about a guy, Kevin Durant, that decided to leave Oklahoma City after being up 3-1 and then blowing it in the conference finals and then going to the team that actually beat him. Don't get me started with that. I'm in a good mood and I don't feel like getting ticked off, okay? So you got all of that going on, all right? You got to remember, the pressure is on. It ain't on Cleveland. Cleveland's playing with house money. LeBron came back, delivered on his promise. A championship is here in Cleveland, Ohio, because of him. And now they have nothing to worry about.
Well, if the
playing with house
is,
money because everybody's expecting Golden State. Everyone's expecting Golden State to win.
The question
nobody's
is, what do they have to do?
Cleveland, nobody's expecting
what do they have to do to bump off the Warriors? And the answer, as all answers in Cleveland, begin and end with LeBron James. The reason they won this past season, the reason you're celebrating today, is because LeBron James figured out a way to get it done. He tried to bring Kevin Love along with him to the finals. It didn't quite work out. Don't tell me he elevated his play a little. Kevin Love was not a star anymore. They looked for mismatches throughout the game, and then LeBron made sure it was him and Kyrie at the end. LeBron James has got to figure this out, and in this case, it's not going to be enough to try to get Kevin Love to come along like last year, but, it didn't work, I'll figure something else out. Either he figures out a way to get Kevin Love, the star player, back, or they will surely lose to the Golden State Warriors in the finals.
Well, listen, you can say that, and I can understand where you're coming from, but in the end, it's not for me, as far as I'm concerned, it's not for LeBron James to figure out Golden State. It's for Golden State to figure out LeBron James, because LeBron James is going to be coming. And it's just that simple to me.
No,
I mean, think about
LeBron
it.
Figuring out Golden State.
Well, I'm saying he don't have to figure out Golden State. They got to figure him out because we know what he's going to do. Well, how you going to stop him? And that's really what this comes down to.
They're going to spread the floor and shoot the lights out is what they're going to do.
Well, you know that's how you feel.
Yeah.
That's how you feel. But
Correct.
The facts are, who's standing here right now is the reigning defending NBA champions. That would happen to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're Golden State, again, I'm looking at the people that they have in place. Now, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson don't have much to prove, but Kevin Durant does.
Look, yes,
and
LeBron
it's going to be real
needs to get
interesting
into
to see
Kevin
what he
Durant's head
does.
the same way he got to Steph Curry's head when he's dunking on him, staring him down, and putting that doubt in his mind. LeBron will surely also have to do that to Steph and now Durant too. But this is an impossible
he has to do
task
it like he
he's
hasn't
trying
already.
to do. Well, but not with Kevin Durant on the team.
You're saying that he has to he's
They
already
went
done
2
it to
minutes.
Kevin Durant for years.
They went 2 minutes in the fourth quarter plus without scoring a point, the Warriors, and that's why the Cavs won. It came down to Game 7 on the road, and they just added KD. So, yeah, LeBron got his work cut out, and he's the underdog.
I'm just saying. The point is, you're saying he's got to figure out a way to get in Kevin Durant's head, talk to NBA aficionados, and they'll say to make the argument to you that he's already in Kevin Durant's head, that he's a big reason why Kevin Durant didn't even come to the East.
No, stay there. Then my advice to LeBron is stay right there. Stay in his head. You're going to need it.
Okay.
Stephen A., to your earlier point.
We good.
pressure bust pressure bust pipes. It also makes diamonds, the ones that the Cavs will be getting in their rings tonight. And they have a chance potentially at a three-peat. So if the Cavs and Warriors face off for the third time in the finals, it'll be the first time in NBA history we have a finals trilogy in 3 straight years. No surprise that those two teams have the best odds of winning the title this season. Spurs, Clippers, Celtics have the next best odds to win the chip. So what team has the best chance to derail a finals rematch? Mr.
Stephen A.
I'm going to say, believe it or not, everybody wants to say the Clippers. I want to as well, but damn it, that Blake Griffin's got to step up, be healthy. And DeAndre Jordan, could you hit better than 50% for the free throw line? Pretty please, with sugar on top, it would be nice. I know it's popular to say San Antonio because now you got Tim Duncan gone, Pau Gasol, and David Lee are there with Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge. But there's something, it's call it my spidey senses, something tingling. I don't know how to put it. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder has arguably the best shot to derail Golden State. I'm not saying it's going to happen. But when I think about the assassin that is Russell Westbrook, when I think about the fact that they added Victor Oladipo, who can ball, as your new backcourt mate. So for the first time, they really have a backcourt mate with Russell Westbrook. Yes, Kevin Durant is gone, and Oladipo doesn't make up for Kevin Durant. But Steven Adams with Enes Kanter and those crew, I don't like the fact that they lost Deion Waiters, but I'm looking at Oklahoma City and the fact that it is clearly Russell Westbrook's team, and he doesn't have to defer in any way, psychologically, literally, or otherwise, to Kevin Durant. And how bad he's going to want to go at them. And I'm saying to myself, in terms of the best shot, I could see the Clippers, something happening to the Clippers to derail them, even though I would love that matchup between the Clippers and Golden State because they hate each other. And plus, I'd rather be in L.A. than Oklahoma City. I ain't going to lie to you. The bottom line is I got to look at Oklahoma City with Russell Westbrook and say that they may have the best shot of anybody out west of knocking off Golden State and derailing this trilogy.
Man, did you overthink this one? You got the right answer, and then you kept adding and subtracting until you got the wrong answer. The Oklahoma City Thunder have no shot. Oladipo takes some pressure off Westbrook in the backcourt in a sense, but who's going to shoot the ball? They got no shot. No one has a shot against the Warriors. The best, and clearly in the East, that's a given. Barring catastrophic injury in Golden State, that's a whole other story. But barring catastrophic injury to like Durant or Steph Curry, knock wood, that doesn't happen. The answer is the Clippers, but not as currently constructed. They would need to make a deadline deal for a 3-and-D player who can actually play. A Luol Deng type. I don't even know. They don't have the assets on the books, but they have some salaries that would match up. They'd have to do future draft picks or something. But if the Clippers could get a competent 3-and-D player and everyone stays healthy, they have the best shot to derail a rubber match. No one else does. The Spurs would have to move Aldridge for a piece that fits better. Then they'd have to develop chemistry over the course of the year. That's too big a thing to move in your team. It changes the dynamic too much. And while Pau Gasol at this point is an offensive upgrade over what Tim Duncan was last year, defensively he's a massive downgrade, even over a slowed-up Tim Duncan. I don't like the Spurs. I think the Clippers got the only puncher's chance, and then only if they get a real 3-and-D guy before the deadline to play the 3, because the 1, 2, and 4, 5 are all right.
This is what annoys me about you, because you'll say all of that, right, and then you'll knock me for saying that Kevin Durant has ruined my regular season. Because during the regular season, there's no suspense. So here you are talking about, oh, it's good to watch and you never know and blah. But then you sit there and you articulate all of this other stuff. This is my point. That's why I consider it so weak that he decided to go to that team, being the superstar that he is, because it's a game of horse as far as I'm concerned. Look, Steph Curry is arguably the most unselfish superstar we have seen outside of LeBron James. He don't care about his numbers. He doesn't care about anything. He's willing to defer. It's not a big issue to him. Klay Thompson ain't going to defer. He's going to get his shots. He's not going to change his game. But Steph Curry doesn't care if Kevin Durant sits up there and does what he does. If Kevin Durant is dropping 60, they're going to help him do it. They're going to try to make Kevin Durant have a season for the ages. It's going to be interesting to find out, but in the end, it all comes down to this. We will be right back here in June. It will be Golden State. It will be the Cavaliers. It will be the trilogy. It's just that simple.
Yup, and it may be the greatest rubber match in the history of the NBA. I mean, it could be argued with what's at stake and the level of the teams and how they dwarf the competition in each conference.
I do have a wish. First finals when Cleveland lost to this team, Kyrie Irving was hurt. All right? And pretty much Kevin Love. LeBron James was a one-man army, and he had no help. Last year, Steph Curry wasn't 100%. Draymond Green got suspended in Game 5. Andrew Bogut was hurt for Game 6 and 7. Iguodala was as well. I'm just hoping that both teams stay healthy so nobody has any excuses,
that's on the
any
Warriors.
rationale
By the
whatsoever.
way, you talk about the Warriors. That's on the Warriors. Don't play Steph Curry in overtimes of meaningless regular season games down the stretch if you want to limit the risk of injury, as they did last year. Draymond Green, don't do things when you've been warned and people are watching you that might get you disqualified. That's very different than what happened to Kyrie. Anyone can get hurt, but the Warriors, those were largely, I think, self-inflicted wounds going into the finals and in the finals last year. And even if you want to say that, well, it's not necessarily playing Steph those overtimes that led to the injury, it certainly didn't lower the risk of injury. I don't buy the excuse for Golden State. I do buy the Kyrie and Kevin Love excuses for the Cavs the season before. Because when Matthew Dellavedova is your second-best player, you ain't going to win.
It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. It's a reality. Regardless of how self-inflicted it was, it factored into the outcome. All I'm saying is that in the end, I want both teams fully loaded, fully healthy, where there's no excuses, no rationale whatsoever. It just is what it is. The two best teams going up against each other. Again, we'll be back here in Cleveland in June.
All right, you heard from the guys. We want to hear from you at home. Go on Twitter now. Vote for the team you think has the best chance to derail a third straight meeting of the Cavs and Warriors in the final. Spurs, Clippers, Celtics, or other. A force for sure. Our next guest really needs no introduction. He's a Heisman Trophy winner, a national champion, and now a multi-sport talent. His new book, Shaken, Discovering Your True Identity in the Midst of Life Storms, is available in stores and online right now. Tim Tebow joining us now from Arizona. Tim, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. How are you doing?
We are all good. And appreciate the time here. I want to talk about your move from the football field to the baseball diamond. It's been well chronicled, of course. What's been the hardest part, though, transitioning from football to baseball?
Well, it's a completely new sport. It's something that I didn't do competitively for 12 years, and so it's a huge transition. You know, it's something I think a lot of people just thought, oh, you know, you made this decision on a whim, but it's something that I thought about, I prayed about for a while, and it was something that was in my heart for a long time, and, you know, finally made the choice to do it, and I'm loving it. I'm so passionate about the sport, and I enjoy playing it. My two favorite things to do growing up was, one, to be a quarterback and have 10 other guys look at you in a huddle and lead them on a 2-minute drive to win the game, and the other one was to hit a baseball. And I love that one-on-one matchup. It's just fun, you know, and I'm honestly excited to be able to pursue something for the love of it.
Tim Tebow, good to see you. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you.
What's up,
Let me
Steven?
get right
What's up,
to
Stephen A?
Let me ask you a question. If you loved baseball so much, how in goodness name did you go so long without playing the sport before deciding that you wanted to play the sport?
Hey, Stephen A., have you ever loved more than one thing?
Yes.
Do you love more than one thing? So,
yes, I do.
Sometimes you have to choose to do one, and it was the second hardest decision of my life when I chose to go to the University of Florida to play football and give up baseball. It was something that was, you know, it was heartbreaking for me, and there were several times at Florida that I almost went to play on the baseball team, but, you know, with everything we were doing in football and, you know, the goals and the championships we were trying to win, I was staying focused on it. But then when the opportunity presented itself, and I had some people come look at me, and went to Boca Raton, Florida, and played with some different Latin guys, and felt like, hey, maybe I can do this thing. And, so I decided to try to give it a shot because it never really left my heart. It was always with me.
Tim Tebow, I defend you on this show against Stephen A. Smith oftentimes, and you really turned my head around with your play in Denver when, look, we went 7-4, you won a playoff game. But when you say you love baseball and you love playing quarterback, you're known as a guy who inspires teammates, that you can make a unit greater than the sum of its parts, the whole greater, because you lift and inspire, and that makes you a team player. But when you say, I love hitting a baseball and I love playing quarterback, so if I can't play quarterback, then I just want to go into baseball, do you see how some people would view that as selfish in a way? I mean, it's your own happiness, but, like, why doesn't he just go try to play something else in football, because he's obviously a good football player? How do you respond to that?
Well, yeah, I totally get it, but I'm so thankful that I don't have to live my life based on what other people want me to live. If I was on a team and that team asked me to do something, I would do anything. But if I'm not on a team and a team offers me a contract to go sign with someone to play tight end, H-back, fullback, running back, whatever it is, and I've had a lot of those offers, well, I don't have to go sign with that. I'm not on their team. And so that's just making a professional decision to go do something that I didn't really have in my heart. It wasn't a dream. I'm sure you've turned down contracts, Max. I know everybody wants you, and you've turned it down. Does that make you a bad team player because you turned down a contract with the team you weren't on?
In my case, maybe, Tim, but that's a very good distinction you're making. And I have another question. Can you just take me through it a little bit? How did it feel when you beat the Steelers in the playoffs as quarterback of the Denver Broncos? Could you take us through that a little bit?
I'll tell you what.
That's such a cruel question.
It felt really good, Stephen A.
Yeah. Tim, see, here's the deal. Going back to Max's initial question, I guess where we're going is this. You are a Heisman Trophy winner. You are a national champion. You're about winning. And so the way I look at it is that if you haven't played the sport in over a decade, your chances of success at that particular sport are limited, whereas with football, because you clearly have that it factor, and there are other things that you could do on a football field other than play quarterback, your chances of success seems to be greater in the sport of football than baseball. So what's wrong with somebody looking at you and saying that's what you should be doing?
Well, it's fine if they look at me and say that's what I should be doing, but they're not me. And when are dreams based on chances? Dreams are based on something that's in your heart, that are passions, that are something that you want to go try, not on chances. I mean, I'm so grateful that I get to go pursue something, even if it's a long shot, for something that, yeah, I might be able to go do and go do pretty well, but if it's not in my heart, why am I going to do that? I think that's something that's unfortunate in society, is a lot of people just go do what they feel like they should do and live with the status quo and go live by all these rules, and hey, this is going to be okay. Just go accept your average 9 to 5 rather than striving for something, because the ultimate goal isn't to succeed or fail. The ultimate goal is to give it everything you have for something that's on your heart and a dream, and pursuing that. And if you get to live out your dream every single day, then the result doesn't matter. I can look back 20, 30 years from now and be able to look at this time and say, you know what, I gave everything I had to football, I gave everything I had to baseball, and I was able to live out some dreams. And in my opinion, that's pretty awesome.
I'm inspired.
Tim Tebow, I'm going to transition. Hey, listen, be quiet, Max. I'm talking to my friend. I'm talking to my friend, Tim Tebow.
Like you don't need enemies.
Mind your business. Tim Tebow, let me switch subjects. I was reading something here. I was reading something about you talking to Good Morning America, and you alluded to the possibility of you in politics someday. I have a question for you. Who do you believe would be more effective as a politician, you or the aspiring governor of Alabama someday, Mr. Charles Barkley? Who would be a better politician?
That's a really good question. I'll tell you what, he would not be terrible. TRBL, he would not be terrible. He could get some people behind him, that's for sure.
That's not an answer.
Well, he's a good politician. I think
Hey,
Tim is showing you
I
what a
gotta
good
start with the
politician
political
is.
answers right now.
Tim, you're off the hot seat.
I got you.
And to answer your earlier question, we've all had more than one passion and more than one love. So I appreciate you following your heart and not needing others' approval. Very, very inspiring. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure your book will be as well. So pick up your copy of Shaken in stores and online today. Meanwhile, the Broncos ruined Brock Osweiler's homecoming Monday night, getting after their former teammate all night in a 27-9 win over his Texans. Osweiler was just 22 for 41 for 131 yards with no TDs and one lost fumble. Trevor Siemian was 14 of 25 for 157 yards, a TD, and no interceptions. The question is, did last night's game, Max, vindicate Elway's quarterback decisions?
Yes, of course it did, and as though Elway needs vindication. Look, John Elway said during the offseason, why does it have to be you get paid essentially like a bum, or you get paid a replacement player, or you get paid franchise money? Why can't we have middle-class quarterbacks? Why did he say that? Because the job of a GM in a hard cap league is to properly price commodities, in this case players, draft picks. So he looks at it and goes, I'm not paying that guy franchise money. I mean, after the fact, they claim that they were offered similar money by Denver. But notice, that's not what happened. He signed away. Because he's not worth that money. Because I can approximate Brock Osweiler, who's an okay quarterback who was made to look like a bad one against one of the two best defenses in the world, along with Minnesota's. He's an okay quarterback at best. If you have Osweiler, you're probably looking to do a little better, but okay, he can hold it down for now. He's not a great plus, obviously, but he's not going to kill you. He doesn't want to give that guy franchise money. And incidentally, for people who do question John Elway, shouldn't you be done questioning his judgment by now? I mean, you can say, hey, I wonder if that's the right decision. Time will tell. Everyone makes mistakes. No one's perfect. But doesn't he deserve the benefit of the doubt? Think about the decisions John Elway has made, starting with turning down the Colts, holding out for the Broncos as a player, using baseball as leverage, sticking around till he got a running back, winning 2 Super Bowls, retiring on top of the world, drafting a defense, winning first with signing Peyton Manning, winning with the offense but no defense, winning with the defense but no offense. Like, at what point do people wake up and realize the dude has really good judgment? And it's showing again here.
Well, first of all, I think you're jumping the gun just a little bit. Nobody's questioning the legitimacy of John Elway as an executive. What we're talking about is whether or not last night's game proved anything, and I'm saying to you, absolutely not. First of all, I wasn't sold on Brock Osweiler to begin with. Yeah, they were booing him profusely, and obviously they shut him down by making sure DeAndre Hopkins and the other receivers weren't getting open, because between Blue and Lamar Miller, both of them averaged better than 5 yards a carry last night. They could have ran the football more. They elected not to do so. They wanted Brock Osweiler to get off, and he couldn't get in. He couldn't find anybody open. He's not the greatest quarterback to begin with, and that is that. But when you talk about Denver and Trevor Siemian and whether or not the Denver Broncos have proven anything, need I remind y'all that at 5-2, there are 9 games to go for the Denver Broncos. 2 are against the Oakland Raiders. 2 more are against the Kansas City Chiefs. 1 is against the San Diego Chargers team that has already beat them. All right? That's 5 games. Another 6th is against the New England Patriots. And then you look on the rest of their schedules, there's 2 gimmies, albeit on the road against Jacksonville and Tennessee potentially. And, of course, there's a game against Drew Brees. And New Orleans has no defense. They might as well be called the Aints instead of the Saints. We understand that. But in the end, what it comes down to is that you're talking about 6 legitimately or potentially 7 games where we're going to see what Trevor Siemian is made of. We know what Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas can do. We know what C.J. Anderson and this kid Devontae Booker can do in the backfield because they've been doing it, and we know they're tried and proven. The offensive line is a bit suspect at times, but they've been better this year. But in terms of Trevor Siemian and what he's going to be able to bring to the table, a legitimate argument can be made that the jury is still out. And until I see him against division rivals and how he performs under that duress, then I will pass judgment. Until that moment in time, I'm not sold on him.
Let me just tell you what's going to happen. They're going to win double-digit games. They will make the playoffs. Trevor Siemian will be their quarterback. Now, will they win the Super Bowl? Probably not, because even the best team in football doesn't necessarily win the Super Bowl in a given season. But will they win a playoff game? Will they make the playoffs in advance? Oh, very likely. And even if you think that Osweiler raised your chances a little bit of getting deeper into the playoffs, which, and I know, look, Simeon wasn't facing nearly the defense Osweiler was facing yesterday. Simeon looked good. I mean, one of the reasons that we talk about Dak and we talk about Wentz a lot because it's this draft that they just got picked in, and Simeon was the previous season. And Simeon doesn't look as talented as those guys, but he's kind of doing what they're doing, taking care of the ball, making smart reads, getting it out quickly, all that stuff. I mean, he's looking pretty good. But even if Osweiler gave you some small premium over Simeon this year as the GM of a team to avoid being locked into years of a bad contract, which for years lowers your odds every year that you could be a good team, versus this guy who, even if you decreased your odds this season a little bit, you've shown the ability to put together a team in various ways, in various constructions that can compete. And now going forward, you got that extra money to spend everywhere else. It's still the right decision.
Max, just because you're a beautiful orator and you sound like you make sense doesn't make your argument that more poignant,
well,
because it doesn't. Here's the reality. Because Elway hasn't had to do anything this offseason. You lost Danny Trevathan. You lost Malik Jackson. Outside of that, your team is intact. All you had to do was replace a guy who looked like he aged in dog years in Peyton Manning last year. He should have been doing the commercials a year before. They won the Super Bowl in spite of Peyton Manning, not because of him, because he was a shell of himself. No disrespect, because he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to have ever lived. But last year, he wasn't that dude. Trevor Siemian right now is better than what we saw from Peyton Manning last year, which ain't saying much because Peyton Manning, health-wise, had regressed that much. So what do you act like Elway went into the offseason and just overhauled his roster? What he did was he changed from a quarterback who had clearly aged and was far beyond his prime and needed to go for a guy in Trevor Siemian who actually is young, has an arm, has a brain, can run an offense, and you got Gary Kubiak, you got Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, you got C.J. Anderson, you still got one of the top-rated defense, you got arguably the best secondary in all of football. You act like John Elway had to sit up there and reshape his entire roster. He didn't have to do that.
Thank you, Max Kellerman. That was a great argument. In fact, I agree. John Elway, you're right, is vindicated in his decisions to not make stupid moves. Sometimes the best move you make is the one you don't make when there's pressure to spend money.
So in other words, he didn't do anything, so that makes him brilliant.
Well, yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is that you're saying because he didn't do anything.
Osweiler?
Now you're saying because he didn't do it. Hold on, I got a question. Now you're saying because he didn't do anything, he was vindicated last night?
Absolutely, yes.
What sense does that make?
Because the guy he didn't spend 70+ million or 37 million guaranteed over the next couple seasons, the guy he didn't spend that money on was just outplayed by the guy he's hardly paying anything at all.
Well, then if that's the case, Max, if that's the case, he was vindicated. If that's the case, if that's the case, he was vindicated the moment Brock Osweiler went to Houston, because who the hell argued that he should have kept Brock Osweiler for 70? Who made that argument that Brock Osweiler should have been kept for $70 million?
It was an
open
question.
Who?
Listen, it was an open question.
Where is
I'm not going to give you names. You want to? I'll provide you a list of names after the commercial break of columnists and various other people and people in football who thought they should have kept Brock Osweiler.
Osweiler should get $70 million?
Because
that said Brock Osweiler should get $70 million?
That was the price. That was the price for Osweiler. Obviously, that's what the market dictated. And Elway said that price is too rich for my blood for that guy and made the point about middle-class quarterbacks. And now he's even got something less than a middle-class quarterback in terms of what he has to pay him. It was smart.
Okay. And I'm saying to you, fine. That's fine. At the end of the day, 2 games against Oakland, 2 games against Kansas City, another game against San Diego, 1 against New England. Come talk to me then. Brock Osweiler, if you're making the argument that the Elway was vindicated because we've learned that Brock Osweiler just ain't that good, okay, that's fine. To me, I'm looking at it from the perspective, we're talking about Trevor Siemian here.
How's Siemian look to you?
Is Trevor Siemian worth what we think he is. All I'm saying is it's possible that he is, but I need to see him against AFC West divisional foes before I come to that conclusion.
This is the crux of the argument. The Broncos are at a very high leverage moment in their history, which makes Elway's job much more difficult than you're describing, because even though he didn't want to have to pay the extra premium for Osweiler, if they did think that it gave them a better chance to win because he's more experienced, he's been in the system, he just was on a team that won the Super Bowl, even if he didn't play in the Super Bowl, all that stuff, at that moment in time, that's when you maybe have to pay for that moment of leverage. Like, we can actually make a run at another Super Bowl or two now. And instead, he chose discretion. He chose, I'm not going to spend the money. I'm going to trust our process and our team building. And I'm going to roll the dice with Simeon. And right now, it looks like a good decision.
He did not have to. Again, you just talking. He didn't have to do that because he won the Super Bowl. If he lost the Super Bowl, there would have been pressure on him to do something. But you're the reigning defending Super Bowl champion with a top-rated defense and everybody returning but an age-old quarterback who probably should have retired a year earlier. That didn't put pressure on Elway to have to
in
pay
the NFL,
Brock Osweiler
except for the
$70
Patriots,
million?
Every other franchise except for the Patriots and maybe the Seahawks, there's pressure on them if you're really good and poised for a Super Bowl to strike while the iron's hot, because who knows when that's going to come along again. And Elway didn't allow that pressure to affect him in a way that would make a bad financial decision. He gambled on Simeon. It was a gamble, and right now, after last night especially, it looks like the gamble's paying off. Good judgment.
I love how you keep regurgitating your same point as if somebody didn't hear you. I heard you loud and clear. I disagree. The pieces in place, he had his whole team in place other than a quarterback who should have retired. You don't have any pressure to pay your unproven quarterback that had 5 or 7 starts and all of a sudden he deserves $70 million when you're the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. If anything, he should have been privileged to sit up there and stay with you. He probably didn't stay because he wanted to go to a tax-free state. He didn't want to pay those taxes. No state income tax in Texas. That's probably why he decided to leave. All
right, let's leave it there. We got to agree to disagree. The Broncos are tied for first in the AFC West with the Raiders at 5-2. You know what it is? The First Take Your Take viewer contest is here. You could win a chance to debate Stephen A. and Max right here on national television. All you have to do is go to firsttakeyourtake.com. Upload a 1-minute video with your and only your best original sports debate. Please keep it clean. No music, team logos, trademarks, or copyrighted material. 2 winners will be selected by our show staff. So get to work, people. We want to see you at the desk taking on Stephen A. and Max. Here's a few of our latest submissions.
To think that a super team is being made to beat LeBron James would have to have a winning finals record. He's given away more rings than he's earned. Nobody really cares about beating LeBron James.
And then on the other hand, you guys are saying that there's no one person that can answer for LeBron James. I beg to differ. You got to look at Kawhi Leonard, what he's been doing since the 2013-14 season. He's the only person who ever held LeBron James from going to the free throw line for a whole game.
Let's look at Kevin Durant, who could have joined Miami, could have joined Boston, could have started amazing franchises there, but no, he had to already join an established franchise to have a secure bona fide route to the NBA Finals, which I'm sure we can all agree Warriors are going to the Finals again.
No, LeBron, you are not the reason that the sun rises in the morning. You're not the reason the sun sets in the evening. The world does not revolve around you. People play in the NBA and try to win championships.
Stephen A., what do you think?
I wasn't that impressed with those. First of all, 2 dudes, especially one dude with the white shirt on, was all wrinkled and everything, looked like he just woke up. You know, there was another dude that looked like he was trying to look like Allen Iverson with a blazer on, with the braids, and there's only one AI. So I had a problem with them, and nothing that they said truly resonated with me. I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio, with hype fans. I don't have time to be watching folks that's not bringing it. If you're not going to bring it, don't do the damn video. I'm telling these people, I'm watching the videos every day. I'm judging them accordingly. And I wasn't very impressed with those videos. I was very disappointed with those videos that I just saw. They almost reminded me of how Max can be sometimes.
How dare you? Now, see, there are 2 things in this business. This business is a lot like the hip-hop game in the sense that up here you're an MC. So what counts? It's the lyrics and the delivery, right? Who spits the flyest, basically, like the actual content of what you're saying. who has the best of that, and then how much flavor do you bring? And I have to agree with Stephen A. Smith for once on this show. The content, the lyrics were all right, and the flavor was okay. You got to have one or the other, or preferably both.
I appreciate everyone submitting, though. Tough crowd here.
Well, listen, no, wait a minute. You go ahead and you appreciate them all they want. I had this, you know what, I put together this contest because I wanted to give the people a voice. You going to take time out to be on national television with your video. You need to bring it. And they didn't bring it.
I saw some. I've seen some
on
Twitter.
Am I lying?
I've seen some on Twitter.
They got to bring it.
On Twitter links, people tweeting at me that are fire. That are fire. That wasn't
all
that.
The videos, all of it. We've loved all the videos that came in until today. Those folks today, they need to. They can do it again. Their game needs to step up, period. End of discussion.
All right, I got it. I'll continue to be the nice one here. And to your earlier point, a lot of people are tweeting the videos. Remember, firstTakeYourTake.com. Submit them there. As Stephen A. mentioned, he's right down the road from the World Series game at Progressive Field and the Q, where the Cavs take on the Knicks and receive their championship ring. So LeBron brings the city their first title since 1948. But the question now is, if LeBron wins the chip this year, is he back in the conversation with Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time? Stephen A.
Well, listen, we all know I'm here in Cleveland, and the city's great, and they're treating me wonderfully. But I have to say this, because I'm always going to be real and I'm always going to be honest. No, it does not put another championship, does not put LeBron James in a conversation as Michael Jordan. That's right, I said it. The fact of the matter is, I don't care. I don't care. That's right, I'm here and I don't care. Let me be very clear about this.
Who cares?
Let me be very clear.
Yeah, they're booing the wrong dude. He really don't care.
I'm going to say this one. Hold
you don't care.
Listen to this. Michael Jordan went 6 for 6 with 6 NBA Finals MVPs. He does not have 4 NBA Finals losses. Now, 2 of them I don't even count against LeBron James. I don't count the first loss to the Spurs in 07 against LeBron James. I really, really don't. And I don't count the one a couple of years ago against Golden State. That man was by himself. He had no help. But are we going to deny or gloss over what we saw against Dallas in the NBA Finals back in 11 when they lost to the Dallas Mavericks in those 4 consecutive fourth quarters? Are we going to deny what happened against the Spurs? Those are legitimate losses, even though Dwayne Wade wasn't 100%. It's still legitimate losses because you had a good enough team to not go down in 5 games and get outscored by 70 points along the way. We are talking about Michael Jordan, the GOAT. It don't matter what city you in. It don't matter what state you're in. It don't matter what damn country or continent you're in. When you say Michael Jordan, that is that. The only other MJ that has ever mattered as much is Michael Jackson, God rest his soul. And that's about it. Yeah. So let's be clear. We respect the hell out of LeBron James. He's on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, probably. He's one of the greatest players we've ever seen in our lives. He deserves all respect and everything. But we need to stop a tad bit shy. He does not get to go to usurp Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan was unblemished. And oh, by the way, LeBron James has won a Game 7 in an NBA Finals. That's the one thing he got over Michael Jordan. Oops, I forgot. Michael Jordan never allowed the series to get to a Game 7. There is no discussion. It is what it is. LeBron James, mad love and respect, but let's pump the brakes. It's only one MJ, baby. Damn it, it don't take off the M, it's the J. You call it whatever you want. It's Michael Jordan.
Co-sign on most of what you said, and to just I'm going to get to that in a second. To let LeBron fans know, who always say, well, LeBron got to finals, you have to get there to lose. Jordan didn't get to finals a lot of years. Let me just tell you something. Jordan never played with another All-Star. Never, not one time, until Pippen made his first All-Star game. The first time Jordan played with another All-Star, Scottie Pippen, he took the Pistons, who were champs, 7 games. They were the reigning defending champs. He took them 7 games. Pippen had a headache, couldn't play, a migraine, couldn't play in Game 7, and they lost. Had he played, maybe they win. and Pippen was pre-prime. The next year, like his PER, all those numbers jumped to prime levels. Jordan didn't win the finals in under 7 games again. So all that, it took Jordan, it's nonsense. Jordan is the greatest who ever lived, and when LeBron choked four fourth quarters away against Dallas in 11, that ship had sailed, right? Or so I thought. Because I can't believe I'm saying this, and I don't think it's going to happen, but I got to say it. When LeBron was down 3-1 to a 73-win Warriors team, I was on Sports Nation at the time. I turned to the camera, and Marcellus Wiley was making some LeBron James excuses. He loves him some LeBron. And I said, I don't want to hear it, LeBron. No one wants to hear the excuses. This is when your back's to the wall. Muhammad Ali fought, guys. He was the underdog. You know why we remember Muhammad Ali? It's not just the social stances he took and what he sacrificed and risked. It's that he did the impossible. Go ahead, LeBron. You want to be one of the all-time greats? Do the impossible. Come back down 3-1 on a 73-win Warriors team and have to close them out in Game 7 on the road. And you know what? He did it. That was amazing. And I'm here to tell you, Stephen A. Smith, I don't think they're going to beat the Warriors in the finals this year. And we all know what the finals are going to be. I think LeBron loses, just like I thought he'd lose to the Warriors this year. But if he comes back and does that again, this time with a Warriors team, a pumped-up, much better version, because instead of Harrison Barnes, you have KD. He does that again. I got to tell you, unbelievably, maybe the ship hasn't sailed, because I think he's back in the conversation. Whether or not you win the argument, he's at least going down as the second greatest player of all time, and he's back in the Jordan conversation. The reason I think the ship has sailed is because I don't think he can do it. But after what he did last year, I just can't count him out. It's a possibility.
I can't give him that. And the reason why I can't give him that is because whatever you mature into, you deserve a lot of credit for that. But Jordan deserves more credit for having it from the moment he arrived in this league. When Jordan arrived in the NBA, in his second season, because if you remember, he had the knee, went down. He came back with a few games left. Former GM for the Chicago Bulls, Jerry Krause, was determined to keep him out. Jordan said, to hell with that, I'm playing. This is when Jordan was rocking the red and white sweatsuits with the gold chains, looking like a skinnier version of Mr. T at the time, for crying out loud. This is when Jordan was that dude. And Jordan rolled on the court and dropped 63 against Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics, where Larry Bird called him the closest thing to God he has seen. I'm paraphrasing here. In the end, what it comes down to, when we've watched Jordan, who religiously averaged over 30, who was an all-defensive player, who was a leading scorer, who did this, who did that, Michael Jordan came into the league, and from the moment he arrived, he put the world on notice that the only person alive who could stop him was Dean Smith, his former coach at North Carolina. The LeBron James that we're seeing now not only took years to get to that point, but literally had to depart from Cleveland, go to South Beach, join forces with D. Wade, who was a big brother to him, and Pat Riley, who was the winner within, and literally after blowing the series against the Dallas Mavericks, had suffered so much that he had to lock in, zone in, start reading. Who knows whether it was Shakespeare or Socrates? He probably spoke to you about that. He had to do all of this stuff, zone out the rest of the world. There's so much that he had to go through for the first 9 years of his career, that when you look at Jordan, yes, LeBron James deserves all the credit in the world for being one of the greatest ever and elevating himself to the clear greatest player on the planet that he is right now. But the difference between him and Jordan is that what LeBron matured into, Jordan walked into the league with that. Jordan just said, damn it, could some of y'all get me some help? Because we know I can't do this by myself. But damn it, they need to play. You don't have to worry about me. You have to worry about LeBron. You did not have to worry about Jordan.
There's different ways of measuring the greatness. For example, we agree that Jordan's prime was a little bit better than LeBron's prime. And even the advanced stats that LeBron uses to help him in his game say Jordan was a little better than you. Jordan was a little better than you, LeBron, in his prime. But there's another way to look at it. You're drafting a team. You want to win as many championships as possible with someone you take. LeBron James didn't take time away from the game. He's there every season. He doesn't miss playoff games. He makes everyone around him better. He's in the finals every year. The point is, if LeBron finishes with, let's say, 7 chips to Jordan's 6, If LeBron overcomes a team the level of which Jordan never had to, which I don't think he's going to do. One of the reasons we agree about this is I don't see the Cavs winning the chip this year. But if they do, and the Warriors, barring any injury, they come into this series 69, 70, 71 win team, crushing everyone. Now they got KD, and LeBron still figures it out. That's, the best Muhammad.
Let me help you out here.
The best Muhammad Ali people ever saw was Ernie Terrell or Cleveland Williams in the late 60s when Ali was in his physical prime. But the greatest Ali anyone ever saw was when he overcame George Foreman. 40-0, 37 knockouts. No one could beat him. 5-1 underdog. Somehow figured out a way to get it done. LeBron beat Foreman last year. This is not a super team. This is a super duper team he's playing this year. If he does that again against this Warriors team, he's in the conversation.
No, he's not. I can tell you a way he could get there. If LeBron has 4 years left in the league and he wins all 4, or he wins 3 and ties Jordan. I mean, like literally goes the next 3 or 4 years, and every year ends with us talking about LeBron James as the title, because you keep forgetting one very, very important thing. Michael Jordan, after the first three-peat, his daddy died. After his daddy was killed in North Carolina, Michael Jordan decides to step away from the game. 1 full season. Second season comes. He stays away for most of that season. Comes back with 17 games left in the regular season. Comes back, loses to Shaq and Penny and Nick Anderson and those boys in the semifinals. So that was really a wash because he came back with 17 games left after playing baseball.
Yeah.
Wasn't really in that kind of basketball shape, et cetera, et cetera. I'm saying that to say a legitimate argument can be made that Michael Jordan would have won 8 straight. Beating the Lakers with Magic Johnson, beating, the Phoenix Suns, beating Clyde Drexler and Terry Porter and the crew in Portland, beating Sean Kemp before he became Sean Klump, Sean Kemp along with Gary Payton, beating the Utah Jazz with Karl Malone and John Stockton twice. Would have beaten Olajuwon and Houston.
Of course.
And
one last thing about
Jordan,
Jordan. When he came back the following year, they had a rematch with the Magic. Young Shaq, Prime Penny, crew deep, the whole thing, 60-win team. They swept the Magic, and then in the finals beat a 63-win, I think it was, Seattle team in the finals. But Jordan never had to play a team as good as these Warriors. I think we can agree about that. This Warriors team is better than any Jordan had to play.
Wait a minute. You could say that because the new rules facilitate that.
Okay, well,
but if the old rules hold on. If the old rules applied, then the Warriors wouldn't be as good as they are because you'd be allowed to be physical with them.
But they don't.
Hold on. Oh, wait a minute. No. But it's important to point out that the physicality of what existed in the NBA is something that most guys wouldn't be able to deal with today. Right. Jordan overcame that en route to his dominance. You can't ignore that.
The best players in any era are the players best adapted to win in that era. I mean, you can't hold the rules change against LeBron.
We're not questioning the era. I'm saying if you're going to compare him to a guy that came from a previous era, which is Jordan, I can bring eras into the equation because Jordan ain't playing now that LeBron James is.
Jordan's the greatest player of all time. If LeBron upsets the Warriors this year, he's in the conversation.
Thank you for making my point. I appreciate it. Very touching of you. Thank you. I'm so touched. Thank you for agreeing.
All right. On that note, let's leave it there. So LeBron brought the city of Cleveland its first championship since '64. The last Indians title was 1948. They'll be trying to change that starting tonight. Don't miss a huge week of guests right here on First Take. Wednesday, Duke legend Coach K and boxing promoter Bob Arum stop by the desk. Then on Friday, actor and huge Cowboy fan Omar Epps pays us a visit. So tune in all week right here on First Take. Welcome back to this First Take Cleveland special. Look at these fans are the best, turning out nice and early to join the show, and Mr. Stephen A. Smith. The Land, of course, is hosting a World Series game tonight, and the defending NBA champions will host the Knicks. So Believe Land has turned things around, but as for those New York Knickerbockers, Max Kellerman, they have not won a championship, which you know very well, since 1973. This question might seem a little bit harsh, but are they now the worst franchise in sports, Max?
The answer is yes. Unequivocally, they're the worst franchise in sports. They won in January of 73, the 72-73 season. I was born in August of that year. I'm 43 years old. I have yet to see a Knicks championship. Now, New York City, sorry, Cleveland, and many other places, Hong Kong, London, Tokyo, Moscow, whatever you want to mention, let alone L.A., D.C., or Chicago, New York City is the center of the known universe. It is the most important place on earth by any objective measure. And New York City is basketball crazy. It is the number one sport in the city. Don't believe the hype about the Yankees. They're the hugest franchise and all that, but that's only because the Knicks don't win. Proof. In the late 80s, when Patrick Ewing was leading a very good but not great team, they didn't win any championships, the Knicks got $1,500 a pop for courtside seats. What were the Yankees getting for their best seat at the time, or the Giants? $100, something like that. And it's not even a supply or demand issue. And demand issue when you look at the number of tickets available. There's no way the Knicks should have been getting 10 times what the Giants and Yankees got. And yet they did it. There has been zero competition until very recently in the 5 boroughs for the fans' affections. The Nets were in Jersey for the longest. There's no competition, and yet with no competition in the most crazy basketball place in the world, which is also the center of the known universe, the ineptitude of this franchise, and forget about just the 43 years no chips, they are frequently a laughing stock. They're not a well-run organization that just fails to go all the way a lot of the time. They are frequently a laughingstock with James Dolan, arguably the worst owner in sports. The Knicks are, in fact, the answer, considering the city, considering the level of basketball interest, and considering their not only futility in the postseason, but their laughingstock status on an annual basis. They are the worst franchise in sports, Stephen A. Smith.
I'm going to disagree with you, even though I'm disgusted with my Knicks these days. I'm still going to disagree with you and come to their defense in this regard. There's a Sacramento Kings squad that has been in turmoil. They haven't been in the playoffs in 10 years, and there's nothing else going on in Sacramento. You want to watch baseball, you want to watch football, you got to go an hour, hour and a half away to San Francisco in order to pull that off for Oakland, okay? I look at that. And they don't have any championship on their resume. In football, I look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've been to a conference finals in 1999. Ever since then, they've got 2 playoff appearances and nothing else to speak of. They've been a moribund franchise on their way to nowhere for many years. I'm going to put them into the equation. I'll stay in the city of New York. And although I'm happy that Todd Bowles is there and I believe that he can help get this turned around, and McCagnon as well, the New York Jets have not won a Super Bowl since 1969. That was Super Bowl III. Joe Namath is still popular in New York because of that, okay? Joe Namath. And that's really what this comes down to. So when I look at it from that perspective, am I happy with the New York Knicks? Absolutely not. But they did go to the finals in 1994. They did go back to the finals in 1999. They did go to the playoffs and win the semifinals of the Eastern Conference playoffs more than 3 years ago when Mike Woodson was their coach before Phil Jackson interrupted everything by bringing Derek Fisher in to coach the team. And then after that, Kurt Rambis. And now he's got Jeff Hornacek, and we're wondering when Phil's going to leave for L.A. All of these things are true. But in the end, there's been plenty of franchises that have been worse than the New York Knicks, is bad as the New
not
York
considering
Knicks
the stakes.
And
I'll even address the Jets' point. See, every major market, when they have 2 teams, generally you have the heritage franchise, the Yankees, and the clown franchise, most years the Mets, although not recently. The heritage franchise, the Giants, and the clown franchise, most years the Jets. The heritage franchise in New York for basketball is the clown franchise. The Knicks are a clown franchise, and they're the heritage team in the biggest market that is basketball crazy. It is beyond, as a reformed Knicks fan, all I can tell you, because I don't know if I can root for them so long as Dolan owns the team, it is beyond infuriating. It's beyond infuriating. I don't know what else to say about it. He's got to sell the team. Even now, Knicks fans like you are thinking they can make the conference finals. They're not making a conference finals this year. They got no bench. Derrick Rose isn't what he was. I mean, even this year. And because the fans are so loyal to the Knicks and they sell out every game no matter what, they remain a terrible franchise. They're the worst. And they're getting better, and they're still terrible.
Well, you're still talking. They went to the playoffs 12 straight years. Eastern Conference Finals berth during the whole Patrick Ewing era. They went to the finals twice in the 90s. The ineptitude that has really sullied this franchise was for a decade, but I just brought up to you the Jaguars and the Sacramento Kings and others. That's why I can make
You're going to compare Jacksonville and Sacramento to New York City?
Yes. In terms of ineptitude, yes, I am.
Think about the number of fans that they disappoint. Where the Knicks have 20 million fans, how many fans does Sacramento Kings have? Like, think about that.
No. Well, you're thinking about, as usual, you're thinking about numbers. I'm thinking about impact. If you're in Sacramento and you have nothing to do but basketball, it's a problem. It's just like the Lakers. They stink now, even though I think they're going in a good direction with Luke Walton. But if that doesn't work out, there's other things to do. If the Rams don't work out, there's other things to do. You're in Sacramento. What you got? You're in Jacksonville. What do you have? So to me, you're making the arguments in terms of populace and how more people, how more people are impacted. I'm saying to you, the fan base that you have, when you disappoint them, a legitimate argument could be that it resonates more profoundly with them because they have nowhere to turn, because they don't have a baseball team or they don't have a football team.
Fans,
New York has everything.
You're going to compare the sadness of 3 million fans to 20 million fans. Yeah, I get it. No, it's not comparable. It's not comparable at all.
I said that distractions. I said that distractions.
Legends.
In other words, there's more to do.
I've spoken to Knicks.
You're living proof. That's why your argument doesn't make sense. Because you're living proof. You came from L.A. When things wasn't going on in L.A., what did you do? You found other things to do because you was chilling in the Southern Cali sunshine. That's what you were doing. But Sacramento, they don't have that option.
Who tell me that the Knicks don't even bring them back. The Knicks is a franchise. Hey, we'd all be willing to come back. And think about that championship team. Think about the caliber of person that was on that championship team between Clyde Frazier and Willis Reed and Dave DeBusschere and Bill Bradley, who ran for president. And the Knicks don't even trade on their history or heritage or traditions. They don't ask for those guys' help in every single way until very recently. What
does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
Anyone else, and they're still not run well enough.
Well, nobody said they run well enough. What I'm saying is there are other organizations that at least over the last 20 to 25 years that you can legitimately argue have been worse. That's all I'm saying. Ain't nobody saying that the New York Knicks have run their organization.
We're saying
no, that's not true.
You got to go back
because
to the
New
90s.
York, in the 80s, that's right. I'm sorry, it's 2016. I didn't know it was 2030. I said 20 to 25
years.
Going
back over 15 years to find any measure of success in a basketball crazy town with a heritage franchise? It's just the worst. It's the worst.
Yes.
Worst.
Well, you say it's the worst because you're personally affected, which so am I.
Well, sure.
But I look at Sacramento and I say I'd still rather be in New York than Sacramento. I'd still rather be in New York than Jacksonville.
Well, yes, but that has nothing to do with the teams.
All right. This one's personal, but I enjoy Fired Up Max. Excellent. Coming up next, listen to this little story. Yesterday, Rays pitcher Chris Archer sent out this tweet about when he heard Stephen A's in Cleveland. Heard at First Take will be shooting in Cleveland tomorrow. Would love to have a friendly debate combo with Stephen A. Smith. I'm around. Let me know. We'll ask and you shall receive. Chris Archer, there he is, joining our boy in the land. That is next. The crowd is hyped. We love it.
I don't know if he knows what he asked for.
Don't go anywhere. He's got it. He's ready. Tonight is going to be fun. Our next guest is too. He's no stranger to these two teams facing off in the World Series. Back in 2006, he was drafted by the Indians in the 5th round. He was then traded to the Cubs. Then in 2011, he was traded to the Rays, where he played for current Cubs manager in Joe Madden. We welcome Chris Archer to the show, who joins our own Stephen A. Smith in Cleveland ahead of tonight's World Series Game 1. Thank you so much for being with us, Chris. Stephen A., take it away, my friend.
So you're here because you in town, no doubt supporting some of your former peeps. I get all of that. But you felt the need to tweet me. Do I put? No, he could put this on. He could put. I'm not putting this on. Go ahead, put it on.
No, I'm gonna pass.
All right, you gonna pass? You gonna pass? Maybe later. But let me ask you this question. First of all, what you doing here? Specifically,
yes,
and
sir.
Secondly, what did you have a problem with me for? What you tweeted me for?
Okay.
What's the problem?
Okay, all right. So I'm here doing some World Series coverage with ESPN, and I saw you dogging on my boy Kershaw yesterday. You're giving him a hard time, man, so I wanted to come up and see what the problem was.
Are you going to sit here? Listen, Kershaw is one of the best pitchers ever. But are you going to sit here and defend his record in the postseason?
I'm not necessarily defending his record in the postseason, but he is worth his contract because as a general manager making a business decision, you're looking at what he provides you over 34 or 35 starts during the regular season. He's better than anybody in the world at that. The postseason, I feel like it's more of an anomaly than it is actually who he is.
So in other words, what you're saying, Chris, who happens to be a pitcher, by the way, what you're saying is that even though you show up to work once every 5 days, and even though you don't necessarily produce in the postseason when it counts, and even though you ain't a Madison Bumgarner, it's all right for you to get $215 million.
That contract is what the market dictates.
Oh, so that's where we going. So that's where
Chris
we going.
is right
Okay,
about
it's
that.
the market.
And Stephen A., Chris is right about that, but
You
Chris,
would say that.
Chris, that's a lot of anomalies in the postseason. At a certain point, you don't get infinite chances. Eventually, you have to be at least your normal self in the postseason, let alone elevate as Bumgarner does, as Mariano Rivera did, as Andrew Miller's doing right now. I know he's a relief pitcher, but still, Kershaw hasn't done that. You can't keep calling it an anomaly, can you?
No. I see what you mean, and I think it's 5 or 6 games that have really skewed his numbers. He's had 6 or 7 great games as well. So I think we need to look a little bit deeper, a little bit beyond just strictly ERA. He does have an inning or two here or there where he does struggle.
Yeah, but Chris, that you can't brush
30...
past that because in 35 starts, he doesn't have 6 starts like he has in 10 or 12 starts in the postseason. He gets worse under pressure, period.
Right. So if you're a general manager, you're not putting him in your starting rotation for the playoffs. Is that what you're telling me?
Of course I'm signing him to that contract. No doubt.
I got him, Max. Don't worry. Here's the deal. See, that's real slick of you because nobody is saying that he's not in your starting rotation. What we're debating is whether a pitcher who doesn't produce under pressure in the postseason is worth $215 million.
Your team would not even be in the postseason.
How you know that? I'm sorry.
Not true, Chris.
Does San Francisco have? Does San Francisco have Clayton Kershaw? Did the St. Louis Cardinals have Clayton Kershaw?
The past 4 seasons, the Dodgers would have not made the postseason if he was not a part of that.
Well, he was gone for 2 months. They were doing fine without him this year.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know about that because you're assuming you replace him with a replacement level player. That money would be earmarked for another ace. And are you telling me Kershaw is 6 to 8 wins, which is usually the margin of victory for the Dodgers in that division, over the next ace? Because he's not 6 to 8 wins better than those other guys, and he only threw 150 innings this year.
Okay, let me rephrase. You don't know what you would get with someone else, but you know what you're going to get with him. You made it to the playoffs.
Yep.
He can be better in the playoffs, yes, but 30 other teams are going to take him and give him market value based on what he does in the regular season.
Let me say this because I want to get to the Cubs and the Indians in this World Series.
Yes,
let me make this last point. When I think about Madison Bumgarner, here's what I think about. Here, take me to the promised land. It's the postseason. It's a championship on the line. I need you to do this.
He's one of one.
I can rely on that. If I can't rely on that from you, I ain't giving you $200 million. It's just that simple. Now let me get to the World Series.
Okay, all right.
Who you got?
I like Cleveland. You know, This is why. First of all, they were smart enough to draft me in 2006.
Okay.
So they got that on their side.
Okay.
I love their bullpen. I love what Andrew Miller can do.
I'm very upset he's not with the Yankees, but go ahead.
Or Chapman, for that matter. I love Lindor. I love the energy that he brings. Their defense is top notch. They have Corey Kluber on the mound tonight, who I think is one of a legitimate ace in the big leagues.
ERA under 1, but that's going to change tonight. Go ahead.
Okay, we'll see. But there's so many factors. I like that they have home field advantage. I like that the American League team won the World Series or won the All-Star game, gave them home field advantage. I think that's going to be huge for them.
Who you got, Max?
In the series or tonight?
What are we talking about? What did we just finish talking
series,
about?
Man.
I like
the
Cubs. I like the Cubs. I think the Cubs, you win 103 games in a regular season. You got arms that can miss bats. I like the Cubs. But I want to ask you about Andrew Miller since you brought him up, Chris.
No. Hold it. Max Kellerman.
Yeah.
You said for the last several weeks you were taking the field.
Yep.
Now you taking the Cubs?
Right. The field is now
He's taking
one
the
team.
easy route, man. He's taking the easy route.
No. The field is
He's
now
taking the
one
easy
team.
route.
When the field is 8 teams or 4 teams, I like the field. When the field is one team, I like the Cubs.
You said the Cubs. By taking the field instead of the Cubs, you're saying under no circumstances are the Cubs going to win the World Series.
No.
Now you're saying they are going to win it.
When the field turns to one team, I now like the Cubs. It proves my point, actually. Hey, Chris, let me ask you this, Chris.
Who you got?
Chris,
Wait a minute. Wait, no. I didn't get my prediction.
Go ahead.
I didn't get my prediction. You hear me get my prediction? Did you hear that? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm brave. I'm going with destiny. I got to go with the Cubs.
What's wrong with you?
I picked the Cubs. Unlike Max, I picked the Cubs before the playoffs arrived. And I'm staying with the Cubs.
He did. He took them against the field. Hey, Chris, let me ask you this. You like Cleveland.
I'm not waffling. I'm staying with the Cubs.
Chris, you like Cleveland, and you brought up Andrew Miller, and the fact that they have Cody Allen, they have a closer, so they can use Andrew Miller as a relief ace. Guy on second base, they're up a run, fewer than 2 outs. Bring in a guy just to get the guys out. That's what Andrew Miller is for them. Is that the reason you like the Indians? Is that the X factor?
I think, yes, the X factor for me is the versatility of Andrew Miller. All the Indians have to do is get 15 outs. And then the game after that is pretty much on lock. Just like you've seen with the Royals in the past and with the other good playoff teams in the past, they have a lockdown bullpen. And I'm not saying that Chicago doesn't, but I feel like right now Chicago's the easy pick, and I'm going the hard route.
I'm gonna give the show back to Molly. I'm gonna give the show back to Molly. What amazes me is that even though you picked the Indians, you actually wanted to come on this show because of Kershaw.
No, that's not it.
And then Chris,
I
you
wanted
got
to come
smoked.
on because I respect you, man.
You know it.
Chris, you came on the show to defend Kershaw and got smoked.
No, I didn't get smoked, man.
You got
I didn't get smoked.
It's okay. My condolences. It's all
Chris
love,
Archer
baby.
can
It's all
pitch.
love.
Sign
He
with the
takes that
Yankees
L
when you
every
can,
day.
Chris.
You do it better. It's okay. It's okay. Let's
Sign
go,
with the Yanks when you
Molly.
can, Chris.
Chris, you brought it. Thank you so much for joining us here on First Take. To learn more about how you can help Chris help youth live, grow, and thrive, please go to archwayfoundation.com. He has a golf tournament coming up. Check that out. Welcome back to a special edition of First Take. Stephen A. is live in Believe Land, where the crowd is fired up. There they are, about the World Series and the Cavs getting their rings again. We appreciate you guys all coming out. The NBA season kicks off tonight, where the defending champion Cleveland Cavaliers host the New York Knicks. Last month, LeBron said he supported Colin Kaepernick's right to protest the anthem, but he plans on standing, and Carmelo Anthony said he admires Kaepernick's protest but says he will also stand. So unlike the NFL, the NBA has a rule that states players must stand respectfully during the playing of the national anthem before all games. Max, should players be protesting tonight?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. The answer is yes, they should, and I'll tell you why. Because they should follow their conscience. And if there are 450 players in the league, 30 teams, 15 players on each roster, 450 players, and 1% of them feel that their conscience is telling them that they want to do this, and I would say based on what we've seen in the NFL, that's a pretty good guess. That's 4 or 5 guys who probably don't want to stand to make a statement. And if that's the case, especially we see this way this divides NFL locker rooms along racial lines, it's a youth issue, it's among African Americans especially, and this is a predominantly African American league, the NBA. If 4 or 5 guys, at least conscience is telling them, that's 1% of the league, I shouldn't stand, then they shouldn't. Especially because the commissioner, Adam Silver, has shown himself so far to be seemingly a socially conscious person who's encouraged protest on social issues. Whatever you think of whether it's right or wrong to stand, what it shows, whether it's immature or whether it's a responsible and courageous protest, whatever your feeling is, we know that many feel it's the right thing to do as a percentage of the population, even 1% in a large country. As I mentioned, that's 4 or 5 guys in the league. And if Adam Silver is, in fact, this kind of commissioner, and he inherited the rule, in the NFL, you're not obligated to stand. In the NBA, you are by the rule. If he inherited this rule, this is a good excuse to bring it to a head where he can actually either choose not to enforce it, and then we see it's a toothless rule, or he can maybe take it off the books or start that process. So I think it's important that the players follow what they think is right. And based on the numbers, I got to believe there's at least a handful of players who would think it's right.
Max, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you, as shocking as that may be, on this particular issue in terms of whether or not the players should protest tonight. Here's why. First of all, the statements have already been made. They've been made profoundly so. Now we've graduated to a point where we have to start asking ourselves, what exactly are you going to do with the noise that has been made by Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, and other various players throughout the NFL community? In the NBA, yes, there is a rule that stipulates you must stand to honor the national anthem. Yes, Colin Kaepernick took his position because he wanted to bring attention to racial injustice and prejudices that have been taking place in our community. But there comes a point in time where simply raising your fist or getting on one knee, the point is made. Now what are you going to do about it? Because certainly we have the bodies, we have the resources, and enough people in our nation are conscientious enough to take this to another level. When Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James introed the Espns to bring attention to some of the things that have taken place. Yes, it wasn't a polarizing issue because the things that they said and what they were bringing attention to, nobody could disagree with it, whereas people could disagree with Colin Kaepernick. And as wrong as I think those people were to disagree with him, because Colin Kaepernick did specifically point out that in no way was he pointing his finger at our military servicemen and women who honorably represent our nation and serve and protect us. The fact of the matter is there are a plethora of people within the United States of America that have adopted that position. And because they've adopted that position, you never know what the fallout is going to be. And we don't think enough about that sometimes. Certainly that shouldn't dissuade you from taking stances. But at the same time, you've got to reach a point where you're willing to ask yourself, how effective is it going to be, A, and B, what is the potential fallout to the potential benefit of it? We got a presidential election that has clearly divided our nation. You're forced to take one side or another. Colin Kaepernick has forced you to take one side or another. Everybody wants to stand up and tell these NBA players, even the average one or the less than average ones, the ones that are lucky to have a job, all right, take this position and fight for this and fight for that. And ain't a damn one of those individuals going to be around to help pay your bills when you can't find a damn job because you're being ostracized or victimized. I'm taking all of that into consideration. If none of this had ever happened, I would get you. But the fact that Colin Kaepernick and others have made the noise that they've made, and let us not forget that the NBA and the Players Association are in the throes of a collective bargaining agreement.
That's what I wanted to bring up.
And you've got to put yourself in a position where you can make some noise and you don't jeopardize the kind of cachet that you're building with that audience you're looking to patronize your product. You got to take all those things into consideration and be smart.
I certainly respect that position. I think it's well thought out. I'm not arguing that you have to take a stance. I'm saying you should follow your conscience. And it's awfully convenient because there's a lot of money on the line in the CBA right now for some to argue to players. I'm not arguing that you're saying that here, but for some to get in players' ears now and say there's a tremendous amount of money on the line. This time it's inconvenient to follow your conscience. So don't do it. You know, it seems to me like that's an awfully convenient thing to do. And when you get kind of the most credit and when I think you make the most change is when it's inconvenient to follow your conscience, which it would be here. I just think the players should do what they feel is right.
Yeah, but sometimes what you think is right is detrimental to you and detrimental to the overall agenda. If this hadn't happened, that's one thing. But when the noise has already been made, chances are you're going to create more cynicism and bring more vitriol your way. But at the same time, it's not going to be effective. If it was going to really affect change, if it were a LeBron James or somebody of that magnitude, you would have a point. But LeBron James already said he's standing for the national anthem. He's not somebody that's going to take a knee or raise a fist. So if he's already taken that position and the popular marquee names in basketball have already decided to take that position, then we're talking about relatively marginal players that may end up taking these stances. And who the hell are they to do that? Some people might say. And that could lead to you being ostracized, and it may not be worth it when the point has already been made.
All right, we got to leave it there. Both strong arguments on both sides, but it has been a great year for Cleveland sports. Well, maybe not for those Browns, but with the Cavs and Indians soaring, is the land the epicenter of the sports world? Don't miss that discussion as First Take's Cleveland special continues. There they are, hype all morning. We love it. More First Take after the break from the land. So this just in, Cleveland is hosting a World Series game tonight, and the defending NBA champs will host the Knicks. The only other time a city hosted the defending NBA champion and a World Series game on the same night, Max Kellerman, was October 16th, 1973, and it was the Knicks and the Mets. Max, is Cleveland the epicenter of sports right now?
Tonight, yes, but after this, no. Hate to say it, I'm rooting for you, Cleveland, but here's the thing. I think the Warriors are going to win. I think the Cubs are going to win. The Browns are no good. Actually, the epicenter is the Bay Area.
Oh!
I think the Warriors are going to win. The Giants win the World Series every other year, and the Raiders are on the come-up. The answer is the Bay Area. Sorry, Cleveland.
Right now, it's Cleveland because we're here tonight, and we're crowning the Cavaliers, and the Indians are in the World Series. Your position on the Cubs does not count. It means absolutely nothing because you changed your pick. You are disregarded. You are not even allowed to talk about the World Series.
That was a tough position to take, Stephen A.
Cleveland. Gotta give it to y'all.
Thank you to all the fans that came out in Cleveland. It's going to be a lot of fun. World Series, NBA tips off. See you tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Catch